What's up, guys? Today it's your day because today you're gonna finally learn how to do a very beautiful, crispy, light, digestible pizza at home. So everybody's asking, how do you do it? How do you do it just with like a stove and a little bit of space, no machine, nothing fancy? How do you do it? Today is your day. So today you're gonna learn how to do a great pizza at home. So I'm gonna step in your shoes. I'm a professional chef. My name is Marcello, by the way. And this is my channel, Marcello Piacentini YouTube channel. Follow me, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's start to talk about the recipe. Here, I'm gonna give you the recipe right now. Just give me 1 second. I apologize for my accent, but today I promise you, if you stay with me for 37 minutes, sounds a lot, but it's not a lot. You spend 5 hours on Netflix, you cannot spend 3 minutes with me to learn how to do pizza, come on. So it's time to go in the kitchen, which is here. This is my kitchen, this is my working space, beautiful. I'm gonna switch on the light. Pop. This is my kitchen. Let's go, guys. Okay, so this is the recipe I wrote down for you. It's black and white, so you can write it down. You can take a screenshot, take a picture, or you can just skip to the beginning of the video so you can look at whenever you need. It's gonna be a long process, not because it's gonna take you a long time, but because it's step by step, and if you skip one step, I can assure you that you're not gonna be able to see the result as you are looking at now. So if you want to get this result, you need to help me and stay with me for all the time, and I'm assure you that you're gonna get to this 100%. So as you see in the recipe, it says 24-hour process. This doesn't mean that you need to spend 24 hours in the kitchen working with no break, no eating, no going to the toilet, nothing. 24-hour process means that from the first mixture, the polish fermentation, until the end, when you get your pizza out of the oven, it's gonna take you 24 hours. Let's talk about the flour just a couple of seconds before we skip to the first step, the polish. So the flour is very important when you do long fermentation preparation like bread, pizza dough. And how do you understand if the flour you're using is the right one or not? So this is a question that many people ask me, and the answer is very, very easy. You just need to look at the packets of your flour. For this recipe, we're using a bread flour. Bread flour usually has a high content of protein, high content of gluten. Gluten is protein. So if the flour has a lot of proteins, it's gonna develop a better gluten, and it's gonna be stronger, it's gonna be holding up during those hours of preparation, the fermentation, like more than 8, 12, 24 hours. So you look at the packets of your flour and you can see the content of protein. Is it gonna be in percentage or is gonna be in grams? So based on the grams that it says, for I don't know, for example 40 grams serving cup, 40 grams, and he has 4 grams of protein, that means that he has 10% of proteins in total. So to do bread you need to have at least like 12-13% of protein. So if you see that the flour has only 10%, it means that you need to look for something else. This flour, the Pillsbury, the one that I found at the supermarket, it's a good flour. It's not a great flour, it's not the best flour, but it's a bread flour, so it has a lot of protein. It doesn't matter if it's a very fine, expensive flour. The important that has a high amount of proteins. So in this case, this flour is quite cheap. It's not very, very expensive in the States. Of course, there is much cheaper flour than this, but to do bread, this is the best one I could find at the supermarket. I didn't order anything online, anything fancy. I didn't want to do this video with a very fancy flour that it needs to be imported from who knows where. So I'm trying to use very, very easy ingredients that you can find at the supermarket, and I show you in the packet. So I'm not cheating, I'm not transferring a different flour in that packet. So it's very, very clear that you can do a good pizza without having to research or ship things from other countries or spend like $15 for a kilo of flour. So that is my goal today, to just show you that is possible to do something very good with something that you have at home. So this is very important to understand. And as well, the oven, I'm using like a real basic oven. In my home I have a Philip, and it's a very basic oven, electric oven. It doesn't have anything like fans or double function. So it's the basic oven that you can find in any house. What I bought is a baking stone. The baking stone I bought a couple of years ago. Now he has a big crack in it, and is very useful because the baking stone absorbs the heat, and whenever you put anything on top, it's gonna release the heat on the tray, so it's gonna cook your pizza underneath like if you're using a professional oven, because it's important to cook the pizza on top and underneath. So if you have a nice baking stone, it's gonna help you. If you don't have a baking stone, you can just flip over a tray, stainless steel tray or aluminum tray, something that is gonna transmit the heat to your pan. So you just flip it over, you keep it in the oven until the oven gets very hot, so the tray as well is gonna be very hot. You place your pizza tray on top, the heat is gonna go straight in it, and it's gonna help to make a nice crust. Okay, so first step, the polish. We have our bowl on top of the scale, so we just measure the flour, 250 grams of flour. As we say, it's a bread flour. And the next things that we're gonna add is gonna be the yeast. A little note about the yeast is if you are using dry yeast, of course you need to put less quantity than fresh yeast or even your homemade yeast. And so I would say in the United States they used to have dry yeast everywhere, so I'm using like a brand that I bought in the state. It's an Italian brand. It really doesn't really make a lot of difference what kind of yeast you're using. Of course you need to store it properly, otherwise it's gonna die. So if you live in a very humid and hot place like me, keep it in the fridge. It's gonna last you at least for 6 months without problem. And if you don't have a scale at home that you measure the grams like I do, I don't have a scale that measure grams. This is more or less the amount of yeast that you need to use. This is gonna be around 2 grams. So the third element is gonna be the water. So we are adding the water. Of course, on the scale, we make sure that we put the right amount of water. So we are at 260 grams of water. So we have our flour, the yeast, and the water. So now with the spatula, we mix it up. It's gonna be a very soft mixture. It's not gonna look like a dough at all, so don't worry about that. It's gonna be very soft, and this is our base for the fermentation. The polish is basically a pre-fermentation that is gonna help your dough to be quite bubbling and a lot of bubble inside, and of course that's gonna bring softness and crunchiness to your final product. At this point the polish is pretty much done. Just mix it up, make sure there is no big pieces of flour inside the dough, and I'm gonna transfer it in a container. The container that you want to use, it should be tall and small. You don't want to get like a big container short, because we need to leave room to the yeast to grow. So I'm using, for example, here I'm using a old sushi rice container. Of course I wash it, and that's the only things I have at home. So you don't have to buy something specific for this. Something that is tall and it's gonna leave some room to the yeast, not to the yeast, sorry, to the polish to grow. So I'm using a rubber band to give me an idea of how fast and how much is growing the polish, and so you can use it as a indicator for yourself. So it's gonna grow very, very fast, especially if you are in a place with temperature around 26, 28 Celsius, if it's summertime. And so you don't want to leave it outside in the fridge, out of the fridge for a long time. So just a couple of minutes, and you can start to see already some bubbling coming up. And it's gonna take you probably 15 to 30 minutes to start to raise. As soon as you see starting to raise, it's time for you to put it in the fridge. So it's gonna block, and it's gonna slow down, and it's gonna allow the flour and the water and the yeast to work together in the fridge. And that's what we want, and create those fermentation that we're looking for. You see, like, you see the rubber band is already going almost 20-25% over the rubber band. Okay, so after 8 hours, this is how we found our polish. So it's almost reaching the top, almost reaching the lid, and that's a good sign. The fermentation went perfect. It didn't overproof, it didn't underproof. So you can see, you can smell it, the fermentation of the yeast and the flour. It has a nice smell. It's not acid at all because it's very young. Just 8 hours in the fridge. It doesn't give any strong smell like the yeast when you do your fresh yeast at home. So you just flip it over inside a large bowl. So this is gonna be the bowl where you're gonna mix the rest of the flour and the water, so you want to have space. And take everything out from the container. I'm using like a very stupid container, unfortunately. That's the only thing I had, so I need to make sure that I take everything out. I'm gonna use my hand, make sure that there is nothing left over inside the container, otherwise the final weight of my polish is gonna be wrong. So it needs to be exactly the amount that I start to do it at the beginning. So we can see that the polish already create a kind of strength, even if it's not completely strong and doesn't look like a dough yet, but you can see the polish is already strong. And so in another bowl I'm scaling my flour, so 250 grams of flour on the scale, of course, measuring everything. And at this point we're gonna pour our flour inside the same bowl of the polish, and we're gonna start to mix slowly. Just do it slowly, don't pour all the flour together. It's gonna be more difficult for you to incorporate into the polish. So obviously now we need to start to use our hand. I'm gonna put the second part of the flour. I'm gonna use my hand very soon. It's gonna get dirty. Things are gonna get dirty. So but don't get too dirty, because you don't want to mess around, because nobody's gonna clean behind you, right? So just stay in the bowl for a while until you obtain a quite hard dough already. So all the flour is incorporated, all the mess stays in the bowl. So especially now we're gonna put a little bit more water, so it's gonna get a little bit sticky. You can work with one hand, so you can keep your other hand free and clean to grab the water. So the water is very important. The water is the crucial part of the preparation. We're gonna talk about hydration right now. I'm gonna show you how much water I'm gonna add. The recipe says 115 grams extra on what we already add with the polish. So the polish has already 260 grams. So we're gonna add a little bit more water because the dough is gonna be too hard otherwise. So the water I'm adding, it's not all together, so I'm not gonna add all the water together at the same time, because when we add such a large amount of water, respect the quantity of flour, we need to be careful, because the dough can split basically and stop to incorporate the water, and it's gonna be very, very loose. So we need to add the water step by step. I usually add like 30 grams of water on this quantity at a time, so I'm adding 30 grams now again. So I have the bowl on my scale, so I can check how much water I'm putting. And slowly we're gonna try to incorporate all the water to the flour. You see, slowly with your hand, squeeze it, mix it up, making sure that it become like a compact dough at a certain point. And I will say that at this point we are almost ready to let the dough rest for a few seconds. This step is called autolyse. So it's basically we let the flour and the water work together automatically, so we don't touch it too much. We want the gluten to start to develop. So the gluten start to develop once the flour get in touch with the water, and it doesn't get stressed too much. So we're gonna create like a little ball, and we're gonna leave it rest for at least 30 minutes. I will say 30 minutes for this quantity of dough. It's more than enough. Room temperature. Obviously we're not gonna put it in the fridge right now. You see, it's quite hard. Just remove all the piece of dough that you have in your hand, and then we cover it up and we leave it rest for 30 minutes. Okay, so this is called autolyse in Italian, and this is very important because it starts to develop the gluten, and you're gonna see your dough is gonna get very, very elastic even without touching it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you right now. In the meantime, just wait your salt. So 12 grams for half kilos of flour. Usually for 1 kilo of flour you are around 25 grams. The salt is not only about taste. The salt also helps to the gluten to develop, help the elasticity of the dough, and help the flour to absorb the water. This is the water that is left over. I put cubes of ice inside because we want the dough to stay cool. As I was saying, the temperature are crucial in this process. So being in a very hot place like the Cayman Island, 26 degree, 27 degree, 28 degree, the dough itself should not go over 26, 27 degree. You see the dough, how elastic it is. Even without working on it with your hand, it's already very elastic. So the dough should not go over the 26 degree. Why? Because more the dough get warm, more the gluten is gonna have a hard time to develop properly, and then the flour and also is gonna kind of lose too much, and you're gonna lose the elasticity of the dough, of the final dough. So let's keep the temperature low. That's why we put a cube of ice in the water. So the water probably is gonna be around like 50, 60 Fahrenheit, about I would say 10, 12 Celsius. So it's gonna help the dough to stay a little bit cool. And then you start to work. You start to work with your hand, like folding inside like this. Always stay in the bowl so you don't mess around, especially in this time of your work. If you are tired, just keep going. Don't stop, because the dough it needs your love, it needs your energy, it needs your touch. So you're gonna get tired. Yes, you're gonna get tired a little bit, but you can do it. Don't stop it. Don't be a pussy. even if you are a pussy. Okay, so you mix it up, you add a little bit more water. You see I'm adding water like drop by drop. I'm not gonna put all the water together, okay? Don't take the risk. It's gonna split all your dough and then you're not gonna have the same result of what I want to achieve. So we haven't put the salt yet, so we're gonna put the salt right now. Why we putting the salt at this point? Why you don't put the salt at the beginning? Because the salt is gonna act against the yeast. So we don't want to kill the yeast immediately, either when we do the polish, either when we start our second mixture, our second dough. Okay, so it's better to keep it at the end. It doesn't make any difference, so keep it at the end just to make sure that that is not gonna attack the yeast. And this is the time that we're gonna transfer it to the counter. You see, now you need some space. You need some space on the counter to start to work your dough properly. We haven't put all the water yet. We still have probably like 30 milliliter of water inside. And when you put your cube of ice, remember that the ice also is gonna melt eventually, so it's gonna increase your water content. So you need to calculate the ice together with the water. So you work your dough slowly. You can see the gluten start to develop. It's gonna get always more elastic. If you are tired already, it means that you need more practice, my friend. Okay, so let your muscle work, squeeze it, but not too much. You need to be delicate, at the same time fast, because more you keep working, more the dough is gonna warm up. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit of water on my hands so it doesn't splash all around. You see, I'm not really making a big mess. I'm just staying on my little corner of the counter. If you have a marble, perfect. Don't do it on the wood because it's gonna stick all around. So the marble, it's perfect. If you have some stainless steel table, it's fine, but the marble is the perfect surface to do your dough. See, I'm adding a little bit more water again, and it's a kind of folding technique that is incorporate air inside the dough. So the dough is gonna get some CO2 in it, which is gonna retain until the cooking process. So hydration. The hydration, it's basically hydration is basically the quantity of water compared with the quantity of flour. Okay, so in this recipe we're gonna reach almost 80% hydration. 80% hydration means that on 1 kg of flour you're gonna add 800 grams of water. See, now I'm resting the dough a little bit because it's getting a little bit over work. So I rest for a few minutes. You don't have to leave it there for half an hour, just for 10 minutes, and you're gonna see the difference. You see, I have very little water left over. So I'm gonna try to incorporate the last grams of water inside the dough. But you see that after these 10 minutes resting, the dough is already very easy to work with. It's very elastic, it's very soft, and it's gonna be easy to incorporate these last drops of water. So rest the dough for a few minutes. If you feel that the dough is getting too sticky, so you rest it for 10 minutes and then you start to work again. Then you rest another 5 minutes, you start to work again. This is the best way how to obtain a nice and fluffy dough at the end. And this folding that I do, you see this kind of folding that I'm doing, is also very crucial to have a nice fluffy and soft dough. See, folding, 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 and folding. Okay. Then with your spatula, you're gonna help yourself. You're gonna remove all the leftover sticky dough from the counter, and that's it. This all the water is done. I also have a small piece of ice. I'm gonna break it. Gonna go inside. So again, now we're gonna rest a little bit, and you're gonna see that the dough is gonna go together even better. So I was talking about the hydration. The hydration is very important if you want to obtain a very nice and soft and crunchy dough with a lot of bubble in it. The hydration is, as I say, the quantity of water. So more water you put, more your dough is gonna be nice and full of bubble inside, very soft, very digestible, because you are basically eating water. The 80% of your dough, not the 80%, sorry, the 40%